All right, we're live. So, this is Team C. We are presenting our idea of our semester-long project for the class. From what we've talked about and discussed, we believe that a journal application kind of think about what you would do with a paper journal, and that's kind of what we want to implement, but in a digital, more database kind of version. This, of course, is with Michaelin, Braden, Devin, and Aaron. So we'll get right into it, and we'll talk a little bit about the functionality, how we're going to accomplish these goals, as well as a timeline of when we want to get these things done so that we can make our deadline by the end of the semester. All right, so functionality. Some of the key parts in a journal that we're going to need to include are, going down this list, is account validation. This is ensuring that the individual who's going to be entering or browsing through a journal is the person who the journal belongs to. You're not going to want anybody going through your journal entries. We want to provide a secure environment for this information. And going off of that, there's going to be several features that we need to make protecting this data even a priority. These pieces include logging the date and time of the entry of the journal, as well as giving the ability to upload a photograph or even several photographs for whatever the user would like to include in that particular day, as well as, of course, you got to have the ability to include a very long string for the personal monologue that the user would like to include. So that makes up the basic part of the journal application. It's very basic and minor, typical of what you would do on paper. So to add on top of that, we wanted to give the user the ability to go back, to look up old entries, to sort through those entries, and even to edit those entries. Think about, maybe you misspelled a word, maybe you recorded an event in your past incorrectly, and you didn't notice until you were going back and reading that journal entry. So we figure the ability to edit would be invaluable to the user, and we find that without it, the experience of a journal is not complete. Now, with all these things, we believe we can produce a product or an application that will be extremely useful for really everyone, anybody who needs to keep a journal, anybody who does currently keep a journal. This will be much easier for them to keep track, to sort, and to have it be more secure than an actual physical copy.
Yeah, absolutely. As Braden described, we're going to be to make all these things work. It's going to require a little bit of everything, but in essence, Hibernate's going to be probably our main tool that keeps all the functionality and keeps it all together, because Hibernate's going to be used to order the database and keep all of our journal entries in order and keep the dates and times and all the information straight. We'll be using servlets in specific, just so that we can be able to upload images to our journal. That's another functionality that we might have forgotten. And then also we'll be using threads and executors to make sure we don't have any issues when we're entering our product, and we'll be having error handlers that make sure that maybe we'll even be able to add in a spell check type of part of our application.
You think the user is going to
Server.
be misspelling all their words?
Well, I'm terrible when I type. Like when I write journals, half the time I forget words, and so I mean, adding in a second type of like a grammar check and something. I'm sure that's very something we could build in with a servlet.
I agree.
I agree. I know I rely on it a little bit too much, and I think most people today do need spell check in order to have a functional, readable journal.
Yeah, could you imagine your posterity looking at your journal and like, man, this guy he was in college? I don't know if I believe that.
So for the sake of looking good and to your the future generations, we're gonna do everyone a favor and include a spell check.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And there will be lots of other. We'll use a bunch of other code topics. We're not quite sure how they're going to fit in there yet, but they're going to be in there.
And especially with the MVC pattern, since we're going to be implementing a database, to have the controller and the views and the back end all separate from each other, it just make it so much easier to code and to organize the code and to maintain it. That's going to be key is keeping the code as like separate but together. It's going to work together, but it's not going to be so integrated that changing one thing will require mass amounts of changes throughout the whole coding system.
Yeah, prevent SQL injection too.
Exactly.
We don't need random users out there stealing all of our thoughts from our journals.
For sure. All right.
So we are going to use the Scrum methodology for our project. We decided that it'd be easiest for our group to post within our Group C community on Google Plus whenever any work is completed on the backlog. Or if we have any questions or problems with the work that we're working on, that will be the easiest way to get in touch with all of our group. And we'll also be meeting weekly for our Scrum meetings to go over what we talked about and any issues that we had. And also our sprints will be a week long, so we will complete what we have and test what we have during, or at most 2 weeks, which you'll see on the schedule. But then that part of the code will be completed and ready to ship before we move on to the next part of the programming. And we'll just be completing user stories as we go throughout the project. So here is our scheduled timeline. The project plan for week 4 is what we've been developing for this project. We'll also be developing some use case diagrams to prepare us for the rest of the project. And we'll each be taking part of the category. So for week 5 will be databases. And we'll each be working on a part of that for the following 2 weeks, and then log an entry, submit an entry, save an entry. We'll just keep going throughout. And then we'll be testing along each week to make sure all of the code is validated and working properly, so we don't get to the end and something from the beginning is messing up all of the code that we have completed.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely vital that we get testing done throughout. It doesn't do a lot of good if our database is faulty and we're trying to create entries and save them to the database, but our database is broken.
Right, for sure. I mean, testing throughout is going to be an important part of the entire project. I mean, you can't, if our database is faulty, can't log any entries, and it just kind of from there it kind of snowballs and out of control, and we have nothing. So I think testing is going to be probably one of the biggest and most important sections of each week sprint.
Yeah, and I believe that's going to be a key focus on our meetings. We're going to have to make sure that whenever each of us completes a section or a topic for the week, that we ensure that it's working as a team before we can really move on. And if we have any issues, then we as a team will have to address the issue and work together to overcome it, so that we can try our best to stay on schedule and keep on track, so we can complete this application by the end of the semester. Well, so it's our application.
I think
Yep.
that's it.
Yep.
Cue applause.
Applause. All right, guys. That's what we plan on making. Let's go ahead and we'll try our best to meet this deadline. We'll see what we can do.